Right now, from KTAB News, your local election headquarters, this is Big Country Politics.
Thanks so much for being here for Big Country Politics. I'm Travis Ruiz, and we do start with the latest in immigration right here in the Big Country. It was just a few months ago that KTAB had an exclusive report on airplanes landing at Abilene Regional Airport, bringing undocumented immigrants to Abilene. Some of them kept at the Bluebonnet Detention Facility in Anson to wait for their immigration hearings. And this last week, another plane landed in Abilene. Here's Mercedes Hernandez with the latest.
In early August of 2021, we broke news of planes landing at the Abilene Regional Airport carrying undocumented immigrants. The movement of the charter planes, at the time unknown to state and municipal leaders.
We did not receive the manifest, but we estimate in those three flights that there are around 200.
Skip ahead a couple weeks. After touring the ICE Bluebonnet facility in Anson, U.S. Representative Jodey Arrington held a press conference at the Taylor County Courthouse demanding federal agencies answer questions about where undocumented people transported through the Big Country are going.
Who are you releasing? Where are they going? How many COVID positive?
Jump to January 2022, where another charter plane lands on an Abilene tarmac. Arrington says not much has changed since last time we visited this issue.
We followed up on a number of occasions in a number of formats, including a letter with a list of questions. We've had meetings with those same questions, and we've got nothing but crickets. There's been no substantive response to those questions. And again, it just leads me to believe that they are fully committed to their current policies.
Abilene Transportation Director Don Green says the airport was made aware of the impending arrival of the plane last week.
Abilene Aero, which is the fixed base operation on the airport, they're the company that does aircraft fueling, and they also handle charters like this. They informed us when they found out about it Friday.
Green says moving undocumented individuals from the plane to ICE buses went smoothly. We followed them to the Bluebonnet facility in Anson, where they were also walked in without incident. He says undocumented immigrants are likely to come through the terminal in a few weeks, likely headed to join their U.S. sponsors as they wait for their own immigration hearings.
It's become more routine for us now since the summer. It's a reminder to us that to be looking for that in about 3 weeks or so.
In Abilene, with coverage you can count on, Mercedes Hernandez, KTAB News.
And KTAB confirming last summer that the migrants were being tested for COVID before transport, but it's not certain if they are still being tested right now. All right, when we come back here on BCP, it's the anniversary of the January 6th Capitol insurrection. And in depth interview with Congressman Jodey Arrington, who was there. We're back in 2 minutes.
Big Country Politics on KTAB continues.
All right, welcome back. We are joined here with Congressman Jodey Arrington, and it is 2022. Congressman Arrington, thanks so much for joining us here today.
Happy New Year to you, Travis, and God bless the Big Country.
That is right. And it is the anniversary of that January 6th date when thousands jumped into Congress. And I want to get your reaction. First of all, you were there. So let's go back to that day if we can, Congressman.
Sure. I was in the chamber. I was prepared to object to the states that did not administer their elections according to the Constitution. They changed their election laws outside of state legislatures. So I was prepared to object along with, I think, 130 plus legislators. And then we got word that some of those who were there to peacefully protest had broken from that larger group and penetrated the Capitol and perpetrated a riot and committed crimes. And it was disconcerting for everybody there because no one knew if there was an intent to do harm and if people were armed. And it was fortunate that they were able to contain the situation and resolve it. I immediately condemned those who perpetrated the crimes and participated in the riots. I condemn all lawlessness of all kinds from all groups, and so it was a sad and unfortunate situation. And the people who were involved should be held accountable. And and I believe they have been and are being held accountable. But I continued with my objection. I think my biggest concern was that peaceful protesters and people like me who were objecting to the Electoral College votes in certain states were being delegitimized by these knuckleheads. And but I will also tell you, I think it is the narrative around what happened at the Capitol on January 6th has been, by the mainstream media and the Democrats, completely overblown and exaggerated and over dramatized like no other event in modern history. And I believe the reason they do that is because they want to project onto President Trump this riot. They want to try to impugn those who objected legally and peacefully as insurrectionists. And by the way, not one person at the Capitol that participated in the riot was charged or convicted as an insurrectionist. It does not meet the legal definition. But it was also a diversion from all of the rioting that ensued after the George Floyd incident. And there were 570 plus riots in the 2 months after that incident. And there were 2,000 law enforcement officers injured, dozens were killed, billions of dollars in property damage. And I think the most disappointing thing is that this whole thing is being politicized, and no one's talking about the far more deadly and devastating lawlessness and violent riots that occurred in the streets of Seattle and cities all across the country. So, obviously, I condemned what happened at the Capitol, but Democrat leaders didn't say a word for weeks and months regarding the leftist extremist groups that rioted in the streets of our nation's cities. And we get what we tolerate. When we tolerated that, we were bound to get more of it. And I think that sort of recklessness and irresponsibility is missing in this story of January 6th.
Would you say that you think the Democrats are fixated on this entire thing, and it's really been their midterm strategy?
Absolutely. I think Nancy Pelosi, Joe Biden, and the Democrat Party has intentionally created this hysteria and narrative of insurrection, as in a way that would deflect from their failed policies. I mean, we've got a border that is completely on fire. We have 100,000 people last year dying of drug overdose, and virtually 100% of those drugs are coming across the border. We have, 13 unnecessary, senseless deaths of Marines because of a debacle in withdrawing from Afghanistan. You've got crime spree from coast to coast and record numbers of homicides in our cities across the country. And you've got Americans suffering with paying almost $400 a month in a tax as a result of inflation because of the reckless spending and the policies that have created labor shortages. This party does not want to own that. They don't want to talk about it. And this is just another way to deflect from that failed agenda.
President Biden just said he can't accept he lost. His bruised ego matters more to him than our democracy of our Constitution, of course, referring to President Trump. Your reaction to Biden's remarks?
Well, my reaction is people who commit crimes are responsible for those crimes. And it's a slippery slope in terms of violating people's freedom of speech to try to blame politicians and their rhetoric for crimes committed. If that was the case, then you'd probably have to throw everybody in Congress in jail because of the inflammatory rhetoric that is used. I can just hearken back to Speaker Pelosi, who was asked about the hundreds of riots in the streets of our cities, and her response was, people will do what they do. You had Maxine Waters encouraging more confrontation and violence in the protest across the country and the riots across the country. You had AOC say, some of these folks have no choice but to commit these violent crimes and riots. So I think it is ludicrous to try to put the blame on President Trump. Again, President Biden has to own the disasters that he has created and the failed promises that he committed to. For example, he said he would take charge of COVID and that he would have a plan and that he would put us on better footing. But today we have the highest number of cases that we've had since COVID began, and we have a testing shortage. He promised access to reliable testing and criticized President Trump for the lack of critical material capacity. So I think President Biden has his poll numbers are horrible. Virginia election, which is a blue state, went with a Republican. So you're seeing a major swing from Democrat independents, not just Republicans, to and by the way, and Hispanics in Texas moving to Republican, political leaders in the Republican Party because of the chaos and the disaster that has ensued since President Biden took office. But he doesn't want to talk about that, and I don't blame him. But his policies have created that. He owns it, and so today is a political opportunity for him to try to deflect from those failed policies.
All right, when we come back, our outlook on 2022. We'll be right back.
Big Country Politics on KTAB continues.
All right, welcome back. And as we mentioned, it is the start of 2022. And so Congressman Jodey Arrington, I want to talk about this year. What do you think is ahead for this year? What are your priorities for this upcoming year?
Well, it's been the last year has been a completely partisan agenda in the House. So we have been fighting to beat back these socialist policies that will bankrupt the country. The big tax and spend bill that Joe Manchin has helped defeat in the Senate has been my focus because I'm on Ways and Means, which is the committee of jurisdiction for tax policies. And I thought that this massive tax and spend bill would be horrible for our country and would put our children and their future in jeopardy. I think going forward, I hope the Democrat leadership will actually try to work together on things like enforcing USMCA and the China purchase agreement and expanding trade opportunities that will help us recover and expand economic opportunities for American manufacturers and American workers. I hope we can work to continue to do work, as I've done with Democrats like Henry Cuellar, to support rural communities and their access to basic health care. I hope we can work on drug price reform for seniors. Again, if the Democrats would reach across the aisle, there are a number of things I think we can do together to help the American people and create a better economic situation. And but spending trillions of dollars cannot be on that agenda because that is a major driver for the inflation that is coming down like a ton of bricks on working families. So I look forward to hearing what their agenda is. At this point, Travis, there's no indication of what that agenda is because so much of their agenda has been a leftist radical agenda, amnesty, unionization of every state, HR 1, which would be a federal takeover of elections. All those things have been wrapped up in this massive reconciliation bill that failed in the Senate. So if they're willing to let that go and try to work constructively with Republicans on healthcare and trade and infrastructure and other things, I'm happy to do that because I think that's best for the country. I don't see any signs of it. Haven't heard anything about what that agenda is. I think that as a result, 2022 is going to be equally disastrous for the Democrat Party. And I think Republicans will take control, and then we will be responsible for an agenda that will make America stronger, safer, and freer.
And another hot topic, immigration, obviously, here in Texas. And we talked to you earlier this week as the KTAB News team uncovered yet another plane full of undocumented immigrants being flown into Abilene with virtually no notice. Have you found out anything else about that? This is not the first one in Abilene in the last few months.
Well, the most important and first job of the government and the federal government for sure is to protect its citizens and provide security. And we have seen nothing of the sort. In fact, those protective measures that were in place by the previous administration have been repealed. And we've had over 2 million illegal immigrants. That's just what we have accounted for. We know there are probably 1 million more on top of that, which is a record number coming into this country. But more than that, record numbers of fentanyl and meth and other drugs, record numbers of crimes from manslaughter to theft to driving under the influence. So it is chaotic, and it is directly as a result of the policies of this administration, which is effectively an open border policy that encourages people to come. The drug cartels continue to be in charge, but worse of all, they're releasing folks who are here illegally with no knowledge of their criminal record and whether or not they're COVID positive, although we have confirmation that they do release people who are COVID positive into our communities. It is completely reckless for the government to not take care to protect its citizens in this way. And we're seeing plane loads of illegals coming to detention facilities in the area and then being released. We've written letters to the Homeland Security Secretary Mayorkas. We've had conversations with the acting director of ICE. I have filed legislation that says you cannot release illegal immigrants into communities without their permission. But we're not getting any support from this administration. I don't believe there are any plans for them to change their posture and policies. And I haven't gotten a single Democrat to support just the common decency of consulting with state and local leaders and letting them be a part of protecting their citizens and securing their community. So it's unfortunate, but that's we're not, the posture hasn't changed, and we're going to see more of this. And by the way, Travis, this is happening in communities all across the country. It's not just Abilene and the big country. Every community in America is now a border community because of this catch and release and the lawlessness that is happening on account of the irresponsible leadership of this president.
All right, and before we go, I never let you go without asking for any sort of updates that we might have regarding the B-21, the Raider, right? So any movement on that? Any conversations about that happening?
Well, we just worked on the National Defense Authorization Act. We'll be working on defense appropriations the first of this year. So that's going to be one of our top priorities. And, over the last 5 years, since I've been the voice for Dias and Abilene in the big country, we've been able to secure the B-21 next gen bomber for Dias, fully fund Dias, and then to put the safeguards in place to make sure that as we transition from the B-1 to B-21, that we have the least disruption to the base, to the airmen, and to our defense. We've also preserve those bombers, the B-1s that are the safest and most capable of continuing to fly in the interim, and expanded their lethality and their bomber capability. So there are things that we're working on to make sure this transition is effective and is seamless. And so far, we've been successful in that. We've put sort of a belt and suspenders so that in that interim between the transition of B1 and B21, that DIAS would not, suffer any personnel hits and any disruption for those airmen that we love so dearly.
Speaking of loving our airmen, Abilene just once again winning the Barksdale Trophy this last few weeks, and so that's for the community support of DIAS, and so we do love our airmen, right?
Well, it's I know it because I'm a West Texan, and I know how proud Abilenians are of their airmen and that wonderful base that is a crown jewel for West Texas and the tip of the spear for our long range strike capability. I mean, right here in our backyard. But yeah, they keep winning the trophies and the awards that go to those communities that provide the best support to these bases and the airmen around the country. And I'm just not surprised. And I got to tell you, Abilene's commitment and their passion and their love and support for their airmen has made my job so much easier. And the reputation of Abilene and DIAS preceded me. And so all of these things that we've been able to do to fully fund the B-21 and to expedite the transition and to protect the base and to secure the next gen bomber has happened. And I would say in large part because Abilene has proven to be so effective and so committed to supporting the airmen. So my big West Texas thank you to Abilene for all they've done to pave the way for me to go to Washington and take care of the legislative matters with that tremendous reputation as context.
Very good. Congressman Jodey Arrington, as always, thank you for joining us, and a Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year to you, Travis. Like I said, God bless the big country in West Texas.
Big Country Politics on KTAB continues.
Thanks so much for being here for Big Country Politics. We'll see you same time, same place next week.